What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TheSlamDuncan YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about the Bulls win over the Toronto Raptors and also talk about the Bulls on their 3-game winning streak. A lot of Bulls fans are kind of like, wow, we've lost a lot since the Vucevic trade. We got worse since the Vucevic trade. Well, now they're starting to be quiet, and I'm going to show you why. But before we get into that, though, make sure you hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button, especially if you're a Bulls fan. Let's get into this, as the Bulls, as I said earlier, are now on a 3-game winning streak. I made a video when the Bulls broke their 6-game losing streak, when the Bulls beat the Brooklyn Nets. And that was the game where I'm like, all right, the guys are starting to figure things out. Because we saw once the Vucevic trade happened, a lot of changes happened to this team. Not only did the guys that were coming in have to get adjusted to new things, the guys that stayed on the team had to get adjusted to a whole new system. As now the Bulls, instead of being so perimeter-oriented, now we're going to start playing out of the post, and we're going to pass it down to Vucevic. How do we play with the big all-star caliber big man in the post, right? A lot of guys have not had that before, had to play with a guy like that before, so a lot of guys have to adjust. So now, after that period of adjusting, we're seeing now that the Bulls are starting to figure things out, find the pecking order, find how to get guys involved. We're seeing incredible ball movement now as the chemistry is really starting to form. And so all those Bulls fans and all those haters that were saying, wow, the Bulls got worse from the Vucevic trade. Yeah, they all shut up now, and that's a good thing. So I want to kind of talk about mostly about the Raptors game, but I don't really want to talk about that much of the Pacers game. I honestly think that the Pacers game was arguably one of our best wins all year. And I said that about the Brooklyn Nets game as well, but that Pacers game was very solid by the Bulls. I don't want to get into it too much, but I was very happy that we just continue just to go into the post. Just go into the post, because good things happen when you go inside first. I talk about this all the time on my channel. The post is a form of ball penetration. You get the ball deep inside and close to the paint, right? So the defense has to look at that ball, which is close into the paint, which is sometimes behind them, sometimes to the side of them. That causes havoc for defenses, and having a guy like Vucevic is so valuable to pass out of that post. But tonight, though, against the Toronto Raptors, we didn't see that much posting up. We saw still a good amount, but we also just saw how differently this team can score, right? It doesn't have to just strictly be through the post. But specifically tonight, we saw a bunch of player movement. We saw a lot of cuts to the rim. We saw a lot of pick and roll tonight, but also the main thing that we saw was really good passing and really good player movement. So I want to talk about that mostly, but a couple of things to kind of go over here. First off is just look at the shooting numbers. I mean, Bulls had shot 54% from the field, much better time at the three-point line, which has been a struggle recently, right? Especially during our losing streak. But ever since we got back into the winning streak, we've been hitting our threes a lot more. 18 free throw attempts, which is good. We usually don't see the Bulls around 18, but if we're ever around 20 or like 20 plus, that's really good for the Bulls. We need to see that to continue, right? But biggest thing right here, I think, is the 35 assists. The Bulls had 35 assists tonight, and you just saw everyone was moving, everyone was getting involved. It was really good to see. As you look at the box score, a lot of balanced scoring. I mean, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys in double figures, almost 8 with Satoransky, right? So really balanced scoring throughout, and even with Troy Brown Jr., who did not score or even attempt a shot tonight, I thought he played very well in his role, which is bring the defense, right? And he did a fantastic job tonight. The really good Bulls win. I do want to talk about the sluggish start in the first quarter. Ever since that sluggish start, the Bulls dominated most of the game until then. The fourth quarter, things kind of got a little dicey, but it's just, kind of how it is. But start off with the first quarter. Bulls came out, and the Raptors took a 6-0 lead immediately. And I'm like, okay, come on, guys. Like, this can't be a trap game. Raptors only had 8 players available, I believe. I'm like, you can't lose to this team. You can't just let them get right to the rim. You even saw Satoransky after the Raptors took a 6-0 lead. He was yelling at us like, "Come on, we got to go, come on." The Bulls' offense was very bad at the beginning, and a couple things I saw was, one, no one was moving. It was just a bunch of guys standing at the three-point line, and nothing was really happening. Number two, it seemed like guys didn't really know what the play was being called out. It was really odd to see. Number three, we were not getting the ball down into the post. If we ever did get it into the post, it wasn't deep post position. So while Vucevic can hit the outside shot, it's more it's much better for us to try to give Vucevic the ball into the post in low post position, not all the way pushed out, 20 feet on the baseline. That's not good, right? We need to get our big man in good post position so that he is actually more of a threat to score around the rim, which will cause more double teams. So that was just a horrible start by the Bulls at the beginning, but the starters, they started to get it going, and specifically Zach LaVine. LaVine was just like, okay, enough of this. Like, if you guys aren't going to score, you guys aren't ready, I'm going to come out and just start taking shots here because clearly you guys need a jump start. And he legit said, like, all right, give me the ball, we're going. And he just started hitting those shots. And it was really good to see LaVine finally have like a takeover moment because we haven't really seen that since that ankle injury. But I think LaVine's hovering around like that 90% now. So he's starting to really feel himself again. He's starting to seem healthier, and his jump shot just seems more in rhythm, and he's getting more lift to it. So it was really good to see LaVine be like, all right, let's go. I'm going to get this team going. And he did just that with his scoring. Which then led to some other things, which was really interesting to see, which including some double teams, which I'm going to talk about later. But that got the offensive going, and really, to be honest, ever since that moment, when it's like 5 minutes into the first quarter, when LaVine said, "I'm going to take over," it was just like offense was rolling from here on out. That's when the Bulls really started to post up guys. They started to really look inside, and that was really good to see LaVine take over, and then the offense was just full on from then on. Vucevic had a really good game today. A lot of post-up opportunities, but he also had a big third quarter where he hit some threes. Vucevic has just done such a good job of just being a stabilizing force. That's really all this team really needed at the center position, and he's done just that. And I love still just how much, like, anytime he gets the ball down into the post, it's either an immediate double team or he's going to score it, right? So just his ability to have that vision out of the post is just so valuable for this team. And then the other guys I want to talk about, specifically the bench here, they came in after the stars started coming out, and the bench had an incredible night tonight. Kobe White shot very efficiently. I thought he was overall pretty good. Still had some crazy turnovers, but we can kind of live with that. Daniel Tice had a great game. I mean, double off the bench. I don't really have to say much there. And Lauri Markkanen, I'm very happy that he has decided to take his role and sacrifice for this team, because clearly we need Lauri Markkanen to come off the bench for this team to have success. And he has done a pretty good job ever since going to that reserve role. And I'm really happy for him right now. The thing is that he needs to continue to score. Because if he isn't scoring, then there's no reason to put him out there, right? His value to any team is scoring the basketball. And so far, when he's playing against bench guys, he's done that. So if he continues to do that, awesome. But if he's not scoring, then he doesn't really bring much to the team. But tonight, it was 8 for 10, hit his threes. It was good to see Lauri Markkanen attack that rim, and he got a couple of dunks and layups tonight. Now, from LaVine saying let's go, from then on, it was basically like, all right, the team just looks good. Once Toronto kind of made a run, and then we would always respond. Third quarter was definitely, I would argue the third quarter was the best quarter, because a little rough to the end of the second quarter, but the third quarter just seemed overall the best for the Bulls. Definitely not defensively because they committed too many fouls, but third quarter was really, really solid offensively. It just seemed like they could do no wrong. And then the fourth quarter happened. Now, fourth quarter was definitely, overall, it was pretty good. But until then, the last 5 minutes. The Bulls were up 16. Then we started not really play some defense, but then I thought, okay, the Toronto Raptors are going to do that full court pressure, which they did. And this is where I'm like, okay, I'm getting kind of nervous here because the Bulls have struggled against full court pressure all year. I have to say, they did a fantastic job, the Bulls, against Toronto's full court pressure. They did a really good job of getting through that, and they had no trouble getting the ball past that half court line. My biggest issue was just then, we were going too fast. So, we got one part of the biggest problem this season was, we would usually turn the ball over in the full court pressure. But we got through that part. But instead, though, of slowing things down when we should have, we started to take shots early. And that's just not necessary. We just needed to slow down because we had a double-digit lead at that point. We just needed to slow down, run clock, and then take our time to set up the offense, right? So, good that we got out of the full court pressure. Bad that we were still running too fast with it. But then I thought the Bulls were actually really executing pretty well once we accidentally took some shots too quickly. But then we just weren't getting some foul calls at the end of the game. You even saw Thaddeus Young screaming at the officials. And if Thaddeus Young is screaming at the officials, you know that the officials messed up. So there was just I was very upset because I'm like, it looked like the team was doing things right, especially in the last 3 minutes, but they were not getting the calls. And I was very upset by the officiating at the end of the game, because it just seemed like even when a team is doing something right, the things were just going the wrong way still. So a little upset at the end of the game. Things got a little dicey, as you can see that Toronto won the quarter 34-25. But overall, LaVine hit 2 big daggers at the end to just basically close the game out. So pretty good win for the Bulls tonight. I definitely think the Pacers game and Nets game was a better win overall, but still a pretty good win tonight. One thing I want to talk about before I get into some other big analysis here is that Chris Boucher, man, a lot of Bulls fans were like, when Wendell Carter Jr. was here, like, wow, look at all these guys that had incredible games, specifically Bigman. Look at all these centers that had incredible games against the Bulls. And they even included some power forwards on that list, which Wendell Carter Jr. doesn't even guard. So it was basically just a hate on Wendell list of, like, all these guys, all the centers that had great games against the Chicago Bulls. Well, I mean, it looks like we stopped doing that as a fan base because I guess no one wanted to talk about Chris Boucher's 38 and 19 against us tonight. But, no one's going to be blaming Vucevic for Chris Boucher, which, by the way, Vucevic does deserve some blame for Chris Boucher going off. But this is what I'm talking about, though. Like, this is a type of problem that isn't on one player. This is on the entire team. When someone like Chris Boucher, who is a pretty good player but should not be scoring 38 against you, goes off, that's on the entire team. That's not on one player. So all the hate on Wendell, I think it was undeserved. But my biggest point here, what I'm trying to say is when I bring this up is this team still has some serious problems defensively. We cannot just be saying that our defensive issues are on one player. And this right here shows why. Chris Boucher having this type of game, it's unacceptable. We can't have this happen because what if this was Anthony Davis, right? What if this was an actual all-star caliber big? They have 55 on us. And there's no way we win that game, right? So my biggest point here is that the defense needs to get better. It still needs to get better. We saw that in this game that the defense was pretty bad at moments. There's some good moments, but overall it's still pretty bad. So we need to stop just saying that it's on one player for, one player going off. And we need to start saying that the entire team needs to take responsibility for this one guy going insane, right? This is unacceptable, especially against this Raptors team. Unacceptable. So defense needs to get better. It was pretty good in the Indiana game, and I'd say it was almost the best we've seen in the Nets game. But this right here can't happen, and it needs to the good defense needs to happen on a consistent basis, and we did not really see that tonight. Other thing I want to talk about: Zach LaVine has been running the point guard in the second unit mostly. Once everyone kind of got healthy, and I'm not a big fan of Zach LaVine running the point guard position. Hence, I've been saying we need to get a point guard for this team. But I have to say, LaVine has proved me wrong in these past couple of games. LaVine's been in charge of the second unit. He's been playing in the second unit pretty much since Vucevic got here. And he's been basically running the point unless Denzel Valentine's in the rotation, which Denzel was not playing tonight at all, which is, I'm not actually mad at that. I'm actually kind of happy about that. But with LaVine running the point, I'm like, man, this isn't that good because it's like our offense is going to kind of struggle a bit because it forces LaVine into a role where I know he's not comfortable or as comfortable as he is in just thinking score first, right? Because LaVine's a scorer. But man, LaVine had 13 assists tonight, and I have to say, ever since LaVine and Tice have gotten together and formed that chemistry, they're looking really, really good. And I'm really happy that LaVine has shown to everyone that, hey, he can run point guard at some moments. It's probably not ideal, right? But in times necessary, he can run the point. And I understand the 5 turnovers are obviously an issue, which turnovers have been an issue all year. But I have to say, most of his turnovers tonight were him trying to actually make the right pass. And that's what I'm really happy to see. The Bulls, I think, had 16 turnovers as a team. So 16 turnovers for the Bulls as a team. But a lot of the turnovers were trying to make the right pass. And that's the type of turnovers I'm okay with, okay? One of them was like a Vucevic throwing it out of the post to a wide open guy in the corner, but the Raptors just happened to tip the ball, right? That's the type of turnovers I'm okay with. And to be honest, it's not that bad considering that the Raptors, they forced them out the most turnovers per game in the entire NBA. So, having those types of turnovers is not that bad. And 16 tonight against a Raptors team, Like, that's pretty okay, in my opinion. But I'm very happy that LaVine is showing that he can run that point guard position. Him and Tyson in the pick and roll has been pretty effective. And because LaVine's been able to run that point, Kobe White has gotten so much success from it, because we've seen now that Kobe White cannot run the point guard spot. But when he slides over to that two guard position, it's just been opened up everything for him. He shoots with more confidence. He's able to just shoot that mid-range shot more confidently. He's not looking to run the offense or try to get others involved. He's looking just, where's my shot, right? And because LaVine's been able to run the point so effectively, it's helped Kobe White tremendously off the bench. And because LaVine's in the second unit as well. So I'm really happy with him. I love the lineup of White, LaVine, and Troy Brown Jr. That 3-guard lineup right there is really effective. Guys are all 6'5" or taller. They have length. The second unit is definitely starting to come together, and it's really good to see. And the second unit is definitely very important from here on out, because while the starters, as we saw today, they eventually played well, but some nights they're probably not going to have it, right? Because we saw them tonight get off to a slow start. The bench then has to come in and do pretty well. So just kind of some things to kind of point out there. And I would like to see Patrick Williams also kind of handle the ball a little bit more. I think Donovan used to do that, but he's not doing that recently. So coming up for the Bulls here, as we see that they're on a 3-game winning streak here, Atlanta is definitely a scary opponent, in my opinion. I was scared about this Raptors game until I heard that Fred VanVleet isn't playing and all the suspension stuff kind of happened, and that guys aren't really healthy. So Atlanta, it's a big opportunity. No Clint Capella, no Danilo Gallinari, it looks like. No Chris Dunn, but Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic, they're scary guys. So there's no reason for you to just kind of walk in and be like, oh, we win this game. No. You got to play effectively. You got to play right. Don't let Trae Young dominate this game. DeAndre Hunter's also out. So it's like, the Hawks are missing some guys. So just like the Raptors, you got to take advantage of this. And I hope they go into Atlanta tomorrow, or I guess you're seeing this on the day of, and win this game against the Atlanta Hawks here. Bulls are now 1 game behind the Pacers. We're 2 games behind the Knicks. So Bulls are there. We're right here, man. The Bulls are right here in that playoff hunt. Again, I expected the Charlotte Hornets to drop with no ball, no Gordon Hayward. I expect the Miami Heat to go up, so I don't expect to catch them. But really, to be honest, man, the Hornets, the Hawks, the Celtics, the Knicks, Pacers, Bulls, we're all right in that little spot between 5 through 10. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Bulls do, but they have to win these games coming up, especially against the Hawks, right? Or against teams that aren't healthy, because, man, it's going to be big for them to get into the playoffs and then hopefully not have to play in that play-in tournament, which could be very scary. All right, a little bit of film. Then I want to get into, and then I want to finish this video. I want to talk about the LaVine Vucevic 2-man game here. I want to show you just kind of 2 things that can happen from it. First off, let's just watch this play here. This is Vucevic giving Zach so much space and room to then hit his shot or get open and then take the shot. As this is something right here that the Bulls just have not had all season, right? With LaVine coming off the pick and roll, usually it's always a double on him. But if Vucevic is setting that screen, they can't double LaVine anymore, right? Because they're going to really face some consequences, because it's either, Vuce can shoot the 3, Vuce can shoot inside, or Vuce can pass it and then pass it to somebody else on a cut. So you can't just, double team LaVine every single time. So as you watch here, screen and roll, just simple screen and roll. You clear out the side, let those 2 guys go to work, right? And right here, instead of double teaming, right, you're seeing, oh, well, Gary Trent, you're not in position right now. LaVine can easily dunk this pass off, right? But instead, though, as you see, the Raptors, they still kind of, you see Gary Trent, he's about to come over to Vucevic, but LaVine gets a one-on-one matchup, which is something that we know that LaVine can take advantage of if he gets that one-on-one matchup. So Boucher, sorry, you're too late. Mid-range shot for Zach, bang. So that's just one part of the 2-man game, which is, we're seeing this 2-man game develop really nicely, and it's become very, very effective against opponents. So let's show you the other side. So right here, coming down the court, you're going to see 2-man game with LaVine and Vucevic right here. So here's the screen and roll, clear out the top of the key, and instead of as you see here, you see both Raptors, they kind of stayed onto LaVine that time, right? Instead of Gary Trent kind of hovering in the middle, you see both of them are staring at LaVine. So LaVine, who's done such a good job of this all season, at making that pass off to the big man, and he does that right here. And Vucevic can take that shot, but just look at how much attention Vucevic draws, right? He just drew in another guy, which is Markkanen's man. I think that's Anunoby, and it's just incredible to see this two-man game develop here. But Vucevic is too big, too strong, and that's an easy and one right here. So both sides of that two-man game is just really developing, and it's really coming along. And obviously everything takes time. So once this trade happens, it's like that's not going to be there like right off the bat, right? But once these guys start to figure it out, it's going to be deadly, and we're seeing it now, right? Now that these guys have had multiple games to play together and figure out each other's tendencies, like, oh my gosh, you're seeing how effective that LaVine and Vucevic pick and roll can be. Last thing I want to show you here is just Vucevic's passing ability. The ball and player movement was so on point tonight. One thing I want to point out here initially is that LaVine even talked about this post game that ever since LaVine got off to that hot start, once he took over in the first quarter, the Raptors were basically double teaming him from here on out. Hence, then he got 13 assists. The reason why is because they double teamed him so hard that he was just finding the open man, right? So as you see right here, this is just a simple, he wasn't even coming off a screen. He's just trying to drive. They come and they double off a Sato for him. Like, this is insane because it's like there's nothing being run here. It's just a simple, he's just going that way, and they come and double off the guy from the top of the key. It wasn't like a big man came over to double. So he used to pass it out, and someone got it to Satoransky. But then, let's see here, we run a pick and roll with Satoransky and Vucevic, and now Satoransky draws two, so now you give it to Vucevic, right? And just look at how much the space that pick and roll creates for the other guys. You see Siakam right here. He has to come over, right? But Patrick Williams is wide open. If with Flynn here, if he just moves over a little bit, LaVine would be basically wide open, right? Excuse me. And instead, though, or also Daniel Tice, I apologize, is also kind of wide open with Chris Boucher kind of cheating over, right? As it basically just took Anunoby and Gary Trent out of this play completely. And now that Flynn is coming over even more, LaVine's kind of wide open, right? This right here, it just shows you how valuable Vucevic is, as he draws a lot of guys to him there, and his passing ability just makes him even better as a player. And this is something I've been talking about more recently, but kind of a thing I want to talk about all year is that I want this Bulls team to think, let's get to the basket first instead of shoot the three-point shot. Now, Daniel Tice can hit that three-point shot, but instead of him just standing there at that corner spot, right, he's cutting to the rim on this play. And I'd rather have Daniel Tice try to attempt a layup than have him attempt a three-point shot. And so Daniel Tice is cutting. Chris Boucher doesn't really see it. Great pass by Vucevic, big to big, and it's a dunk, right? I just showed you everything I showed you in the two-man game between LaVine and Vucevic, but then I'm showing you just the player movement, but how valuable Vucevic is as a great passing big man, but also a really good scoring big man, how valuable it is just to have a guy like him. Because right here, I mean, Tice doesn't get that type of shot unless Vucevic is an all-star, right? So just want to show you that as well. Pretty good job by the Bulls tonight. Definitely could have been better, but they took advantage. So Bulls need to take advantage against the Atlanta Hawks and take advantage against some of these upcoming games as well to really get into that playoff hunt and hopefully get out of the 10 seed and move up into the top 8. That would be really good to see. So I'm hoping for a win against the Atlanta Hawks on Friday. I'll probably have a video for you for that game for you guys as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.